Neuropathy often starts in a way many people do not take seriously. A little numbness, a little burning, a strange tingling in the feet, a feeling that the floor does not feel quite right. Some people describe it as walking on cotton. Others say it feels like their socks are bunched up when they are not. And many adults over 50 make the same mistake in the beginning. They wait. They assume it will pass. They tell themselves it is probably nothing. Maybe poor circulation. Maybe age. Maybe they just slept wrong. Maybe they have been on their feet too much. But I've seen this happen again and again. And what concerns me is how often these early nerve symptoms get ignored until walking becomes less steady, balance becomes less reliable, and daily movement starts to feel different. In my 30 years of practice, patients like you come to me with this exact issue. If you find videos like this helpful, subscribe and leave a like. I share these warnings so you can recognize the signs early before they become harder to ignore. And if you're dealing with something similar or have a question, write it in the comments. What makes neuropathy so frustrating is that it does not always begin with severe pain. Sometimes it begins with sensation changing. The feet feel dull, or overly sensitive, or weak, or less responsive than before. And because the change is gradual, people adapt to it without realizing how much it is affecting them. They start holding on to furniture a little more. They become more careful on stairs. They look down more often when they walk. They avoid going barefoot. They feel less confident on uneven ground. Not because they are lazy, not because they are imagining it, because the signals between the feet and the brain may not be working as clearly as they should. That is where the danger lies. After 50, these changes can quietly affect much more than comfort. They can affect balance. They can affect gait. They can affect confidence. And once confidence changes, people begin to move less. They shorten their walks. They avoid activity. They become more guarded. And that often creates a second problem: weakness. I've seen strong, independent people slowly become less active, not because they wanted to, but because their feet no longer felt trustworthy. And when movement goes down, stiffness often goes up. Strength may begin to drop. Balance may worsen. And then the body enters a cycle that becomes harder to reverse. Many people assume the answer is rest. But in practice, complete rest is often not the answer. That does not mean pushing through pain. And it does not mean pretending every case is simple, because it isn't. Neuropathy has different causes. Symptoms can vary. Some people need medical evaluation sooner than they realize. And if numbness, weakness, burning, or balance changes are getting worse, that should not be brushed aside. Still, what I have seen time and time again is that the right kind of gentle movement at home can make a meaningful difference for some people. Not overnight, not like a miracle, but by helping the body stay more mobile, more stable, and more connected. Just recently, I saw this exact pattern in someone over 50 who had started feeling tingling and numbness in both feet. At first, they ignored it. Then they became less steady. Then they began avoiding walks they used to enjoy. And like many people, they assumed the safest thing to do was less movement. But what they really needed was safer movement, more intentional movement, simple movement that matched what their body was struggling with. That is an important difference. Because when the feet feel numb or irritated, the goal is not to do something extreme. The goal is to help the body maintain motion, improve awareness, support circulation, and reduce the stiffness and instability that often build when people become too inactive. This is not rare. It happens more than people think. In this video, I'm going to show you 4 simple at-home exercises that may help neuropathy after 50. These are not aggressive workouts. They are simple movements people can do at home to support foot and ankle motion, improve stability, encourage safer walking, and help the body stay engaged instead of shutting down. And I want to be clear about something from the start. These exercises may help. They are not a cure. They are not a replacement for proper medical care when symptoms are progressing. But they can be a smart place to begin for people who have become stiff, hesitant, or less steady and need a safer way to start moving again. The first exercise is simple, but I've seen it help people reconnect with one of the most overlooked parts of the body when neuropathy begins: the ankles and the feet. The first exercise is simple ankle pumps. This may not look impressive. That is exactly why people underestimate it. Patients like you come to me with this exact issue. They want something stronger, something more advanced, something that feels like it is doing more. But in many cases, the body responds best when you begin with something simple and repeatable. Ankle pumps help wake up movement in an area that often becomes stiff and underused when neuropathy starts changing the way a person walks. You sit down. You extend your legs slightly or keep your feet comfortably in front of you. Then you gently pull the toes up toward you and point them away, slowly, with control, no force, no sudden motion. Most people think a movement this small cannot matter much. But what I've seen in practice is that small, repeated motion can help reduce stiffness, encourage blood flow, and remind the ankles and feet to keep moving instead of becoming more guarded and rigid. That matters more than people realize. Because when the ankles stop moving well, the rest of the walking pattern often starts adjusting around that limitation. The steps become shorter. The feet may not clear the ground as well. Balance may feel less natural, and the body begins compensating in ways that create even more strain. This is one of the most overlooked patterns in older adults. Now, the second exercise is heel-to-toe raises while holding onto a chair or counter. This one is very useful because it works on two problems at the same time. Strength and control. You stand behind a sturdy chair or near a kitchen counter. You hold on lightly for support. Then you slowly rise up onto your toes. Pause for a moment. Then lower back down and gently lift the front of your feet so the toes come up while the heels stay down. Again, this is not about speed. And it is not about pushing through discomfort. It is about controlled movement. Many people assume neuropathy is only a sensation problem, but I've seen this happen again and again. When sensation changes, movement often changes with it. The feet may become weaker. The ankles may become less responsive. The person may stop rolling through the foot naturally. And over time, that can quietly affect stability more than they expect. What concerns me is how often people wait until they feel truly unsteady before they start working on this. But the body usually gives quieter warnings first. A slower push-off, a less confident step, a tendency to shuffle slightly, a little hesitation when turning. These are the kinds of changes I would pay attention to. Heel-to-toe raises may help the lower legs stay active. They may help support the muscles involved in walking, and they may help a person feel a little more connected to the ground again. Just last month, I saw someone over 50 who had begun avoiding longer walks because their feet felt strange and unreliable. Not severe pain, just that constant sense that something was off. And like many people, they were moving less and less. That is where many people make the biggest mistake. They think less movement always protects them. But when the right kind of movement disappears, the body often becomes even less prepared for the demands of daily life. That is why these simple exercises matter. Not because they are dramatic, because they help preserve function. And the next two exercises are just as important, because they focus on toe control and balance, which are often the very things people begin losing before they fully realize it. The third exercise is seated toe curls and toe spreads. This is one of the simplest things a person can do at home, and yet it targets an area many people stop using well without realizing it. When neuropathy begins affecting the feet, the toes often become less active, less responsive, less coordinated. The foot may start feeling passive instead of supportive. And over time, that can change the way a person stands, shifts weight, and walks. You sit comfortably in a chair with both feet on the floor. Then you gently curl the toes down. Relax, then try to spread them apart. Even a small movement matters. For some people, this will feel easy. For others, it may feel surprisingly difficult. That is important information. Because what people often miss is this. When the feet stop communicating clearly, the body starts compensating higher up. The ankles stiffen. The knees become more guarded. The hips do more than they should. And the person may feel unstable without fully understanding why. I've seen this happen again and again. The goal here is not to force big movement. The goal is to remind the feet that they still have a job to do. To grip lightly. To respond. To stay involved in balance and walking instead of becoming more disconnected. The fourth exercise is a simple balance hold at home. This one should always be done carefully. Stand near a counter, sturdy chair, or solid surface. Keep one or both hands ready for support. Then practice standing evenly through both feet. If that feels steady, you can gently shift weight from one foot to the other. If appropriate, some people may briefly lift one heel or one foot slightly with support nearby. No rushing, no showing off, no trying to prove anything. What concerns me is how often people wait until balance has clearly worsened before they begin working on it. But balance rarely disappears all at once. Usually it fades in smaller ways first. Turning becomes slower. Standing still feels less natural. Showering feels less secure. Stairs require more attention. Walking in dim light becomes more uncomfortable. Those are the quiet warnings. And when people stop challenging balance in safe ways, the body often becomes even more uncertain. That is where the cycle gets worse. Less confidence leads to less movement. Less movement leads to more stiffness. More stiffness leads to weaker walking. And weaker walking often leads to even less confidence. You do not need aggressive exercise to begin interrupting that cycle, but you do need intentional movement. That is what these exercises are really about. Not perfection, not intensity, not pretending neuropathy is simple, but helping the body stay engaged, helping the feet and ankles keep moving, helping the lower legs keep working, helping balance stay active instead of fading quietly in the background. And I want to be clear about something important. If symptoms are spreading, if weakness is increasing, if walking is becoming unsafe, if you are falling, or if the numbness and burning are clearly getting worse, I would not just rely on home exercises and hope for the best. That is the kind of pattern that deserves proper medical attention. Many people assume they should wait until things become severe. I would be careful with that thinking. Because in many cases, the earlier a person responds to a change in walking, sensation, or balance, the better chance they have of protecting function and independence. The body rarely starts with a crisis. More often, it starts with a whisper, a strange feeling under the feet, a little more instability, a little less trust in each step, a little more hesitation than before. Those things matter. So if you are over 50 and dealing with neuropathy symptoms, do not underestimate what simple, safe movement may do over time. Not as a miracle, not as a cure, but as a way to support mobility, maintain confidence, and keep the body from becoming more guarded and deconditioned. Start gently. Stay consistent. Pay attention to how your body responds. Because what gets ignored quietly often grows quietly. If this video helped you, subscribe for more guidance like this. And if you've noticed any of these symptoms yourself, or if you still have questions, share it in the comments.